Welcome to this edition of the Art Spot, brought to you by Byte.org.
No. We are individual.
You changed the name again? Take two. Welcome to the Art Spot, presented by We Are Individual, and today's guest, Miss Star Montana, and I'm your host, Antonio Pulgarin. I wanted to start off the interview and talk about, kind of let the viewers know briefly how we first met. What was it, like 2 years ago?
Yeah, critique.
Yeah, Stephen Fraley's Free Money class. It was, you brought in a book that you binded and made yourself.
Yeah.
And it was 3 chapters of your family work.
Yeah, teardrops and 3 dots.
And I remember you talking about it. I mean, I was just engulfed in what you were saying. I was enamored by the story, which we'll show the viewers in a little bit. But there was something so raw and just emotional about you going there with your work and talking to sharing your story with the audience. What inspired you to go there? What inspired you to start that project?
Well, my photography has always been pretty raw, and it's just how I've been as a person. I started when I was 16. I was really wild, and I lived a really wild life, and somebody gave me a camera and told me about photography, and I channeled all that. Everything, every raw emotion, every hurt, every heartbreak, everything, I captured that through my photography. And then when it came to my family, there was a moment where my cousin had just been murdered, and that was one of my crime partners. And we were always running around with all our friends, and then there came that moment when he was murdered, and my family just really clung together. And so all that raw emotion that I carried in the streets started carrying on to my family. And so I took that emotion of being raw and kind of dealing with what my family was going right after that murder.
So would you say that your cousin's murder was kind of the moment that kind of maybe burst some kind of bubble? Like, it was that reality hit you hard, like, okay, I could do something else with my photography, that a new turn almost?
There was a bubble burst, but I think it was actually pretty negative to me. I captured like street life, and I thought, like, what am I doing? Like, fuck all this. Like, I'm almost glamorizing. That's what I thought at the moment. And so I've always taken pictures, so I actually didn't even understand what I was doing at the time. All I knew is my family was always at my house, and we were always just mourning together, so I just would capture them, and that was just how it happened. Like, it's not, my work is never preconceived for the most part in terms of my family. It's just a raw feeling of capturing
it's in the moment.
Yeah, it's in the moment, and having like tools, like, throwaways, borrowed cameras, anything I have just to capture that. That's the way I think I know how to deal with life.
And just to kind of give the viewers a little bit more insight, because in the beginning I couldn't go right away and tell the viewers what the work was about, but when we were in class, and I got to actually physically go through the book myself after you presented it to us, there was a story about you and your mother. It started with the initial connection between you and her, and how that all kind of developed over the years, with you going through your stages of rebellion and being a punk rocker in the LA scene, and then going from that to the moment where she got sick.
Yeah.
And you continued bringing your camera everywhere, documenting her illness, but also how the illness affected everyone around her. And then the final chapter of that is her passing.
Yeah.
And it was almost like, my immediate reaction was almost when you're reading a novel and you're hoping like the heroine like perseveres and gets through it, and then you're kind of hit right in the gut with that.
Yeah.
And I will never forget that moment.
The image.
And then I remember getting up, handing you the book, and just hugging you and like kind of holding back tears, because I thought it was perhaps one of the most probably the bravest thing I've seen a photographer do in quite some time, to kind of just go there.
Yeah. Well, that's actually how the story unfolded. My mom was real sick. She had been battling hepatitis C for about 10 years, and it really, it destroyed my family because we were fighting for her and fighting for her to live. She was the matriarch of our family. She was the rock. And everybody looked to her, and everybody thought she would live forever. And when she got sick, nobody wanted to deal with that reality. Like, you could see my whole family was falling apart, and everybody was like, no, she's going to live. Don't worry. She's going to get better. Like, she's going to get better. And while I'm dealing with, no, she's not. I know it. Like, I know, like, my mom and me had such a connection towards the end that I was like, this is it. Like, we have to let her go. And, you know, dealing with that, like, everybody around me is saying she's not going to die, and me having to take my camera and photograph myself saying, like, yeah, she is, and this is how painful it is for me, and this is how painful it is for my family, and this is how painful it is for my brother. And then the moment she died, I was there, and I was like, I just let her go, and that's, I think, when everybody else is like, I can't believe it. So the pictures actually unravel and actually how everybody's emotions were. Yeah. That you want her to win, like, you want her to survive, you want so much for her to carry on, like, this role, and unfortunately, it didn't happen that way. She passed away. Her body couldn't fight no more. She had fought for, like, 10 years.
Did you ever have a moment, because this is very conflicting for a photographer, to know when to put down the camera and to kind of live in the moment as opposed to photographing the moment? Did you ever have any, like, internal conflicting ideas?
It's actually really interesting because I always have those moments with my family. Like when my cousin died, I didn't photograph my family at all. Until after, like, his funeral was not documented except one private picture. And when my mom got sick initially, she got a bite in her leg, and I couldn't deal with it because she had almost died like 4 years ago, and it completely just destroyed me. Like, seeing there and saying, like, your mom's not gonna make it, and then she made it. So there was that moment of, like, she made it and whatever, and I wasn't strong enough at that moment to document it, and then came this moment where I was documenting my family and consciously taking pictures of them, and then she got sick again. And I wasn't going to take the camera the first time she got sick. She was in the hospital. And I just did it. I was like, you know, whatever it is, it is. Like, if I don't take pictures, I'm not going to feel guilty about it. And me and my mom were having this really great conversation. And she was thanking me because she didn't want to believe that she was sick. She wanted to believe that bite was going to heal. And she's like, and I forced her. I begged her and I cried. And I was like, please, Mom, like, you know, your body, like, just go to the doctor, go to the hospital. And so she went, and sure enough, it was a serious thing, and she was talking to her friend, like, I have to thank my daughter, like, and all that, and blah, blah, and she just saw how wrecked I was, and she's like, where's that camera of yours? And I was like, it's in my bag. She's like, you need to take her picture. You need to show people. Like, this is the price you pay for everything you do, because my mom was an advocate for a drug-free life because she had been a drug addict for so many years and partied and all that, and she didn't think it would affect her, but yet she got sober when she was 27, and 22 years later, the drugs and the alcohol that she did in her young life actually is what killed her. She died of cirrhosis and hepatitis C. There's a lot of shit that happens in America that you don't talk about. Like, her company got tired of them paying for her insurance because she was sick, so they found a reason to fire her, so she wouldn't have insurance anymore. And so it was, like, all this horrible stuff that was going on. And so she died with $11 to her bank, and her friends and her family and everybody wouldn't let her go out like that. They were like, no, your mom's life was worth so much more. Like, this can't happen. So they fundraised. It took 2 weeks to raise, like, $8,000, all through donations, all for the lives she had touched. And so during that time, I didn't pick up a camera because I was too busy out there trying to make my mom, like give her the celebration that she deserved. Like, the end of her life, she deserved a memorial. She deserved everything she did. She deserved everything she had worked for. Like, she used to help people, and it wasn't for ego. It was because somebody had helped her get her life back together. Wow. And so during that time, there are no pictures. But it was that moment where we had her casket, and there was these flowers, and we were right about to enter the church, and everybody we knew was Catholic, so everybody's like, you have to take her to church. Like, please take her to church. Please give her that last thing. And so I had a little flip phone, and that was the only picture I took immediately after my mom's death. Was that picture of her getting to the funeral, and it was all the help and support and everything that wasn't photographed that led to that moment. So there are those moments where I don't photograph because it's just I'm too busy living in this life to to take those pictures.
Right. And I think that's really interesting that because I think that's a struggle we all deal with as photographers, is kind of learning when to separate being a photographer and creating and kind of just putting down the camera and living in the moment. I think those very few moments that come in between are crucial to our kind of like growth as an artist. So shortly after your mother's passing, what drove you to pick up the camera again? And what then became your subject matter?
So, my mom passed away in August, and I put down the camera once again. And then my family and us, we were living in a house together, and we lost it. So we all had to move into a 1-bedroom apartment. And me and my brother decided to stay together. We had the opportunities of going our separate ways and whatever, but it just we wanted to kind of honor my mom, and so we kind of both sacrificed. And we decided to go live with my dad in a 1-bedroom apartment. So it was me, my brother, his girlfriend, the baby, and my dad. And so we were just living together. And I was actually starting my last year in community college. I was taking photography classes, but more technical. It was a technical school. And so I would bring home the camera on weekends because I didn't have a camera at that time. And I would bring it home to do assignments. And then the baby, he was only about 6 months at the time. And that he started becoming performative. And so here I am mourning, and my brother's mourning, and everything like that, and now the baby's getting up on his own, and he's calling for us, and he's playing with us, and he's this little, bright light, and again, naturally, because I had a camera, because I was doing assignments, I started using it, again, reactionary to these moments I started experiencing with him. So the first picture I took was 2 months after my mom had passed away, and it's actually the best the moment I felt love again. So I was having to go do a workshop, and I had left the camera, and I was sleeping in the room, and then that was my room, and so I had the camera next to the bedstand, and I had left, and I was like, oh no, I have to go back, I have to get the camera. And my sister-in-law had just put the baby down to sleep because it's quiet and all that and dark. And so I went to grab the camera, and I saw this moment of him lying there, the same way she used to lie there on the bed, just this beautiful thing, sleeping. And it was such a moment that I captured it again. It was the first time I consciously made a picture of my family again. And that just changed everything, just seeing him, this little life just there, amongst all the darkness. And it just started happening organically. All the pictures in the series, were just moments after work, after school, after assignments, after life, of being in the house and really learning how to deal with mourning, but also there's this baby that needs our love, and he doesn't understand why we're crying, he doesn't understand why we're sad, so we had to put on our brave faces and be happy and joyous with him. And in that moment I started taking pictures, and it completely transformed me as a photographer.
And then that now leads us to where the work is currently being shown in Los Angeles in a public art exhibition commissioned by Metro LA.
Yeah.
Tell the viewers a little bit about how that came about and how much that means to you.
So Metro contacted me last summer, and through a nomination, I have no idea how, they put me in the pool to compete for a light box. So they have 5 light boxes throughout the Los Angeles subway station, and every 3 to 5 years they change it out. So really esteemed people get to apply to it or compete, whatever. So I was really shocked, but yet really honored when I got a nomination. And so basically it's just like anything else where you apply. So artist statement, images, like intent. And so I competed with I don't know how many people, and I got the word in September that I was selected, and it was probably one of the greatest moments in my life. It just was like a culmination of everything. Like growing up in LA, I grew up like riding the buses, like, you know, for like working class and lower income families, like that's how you get around is through the bus. Like Metro's growing now with the subway system and everything like that, but you know, you ride the buses and you're basically Metro takes you everywhere. And so Metro has been doing public art for a very long time, maybe 25 years. And they do poems, they do public art commissions in terms of like transforming stations into all these beautiful art. And so I grew up, that was actually really one of the first platforms where I saw art that spoke to me. And I would be on a bus and I would read a poem that from somebody from my neighborhood, and it would really connect me to it. Or recently with the metro stations, with the subway stations, now they're commissioning people to create whole stations dedicated to an idea of community. So like I grew up in Boyle Heights and we just got a subway there, and the artists that were selected for there like drew inspiration from the community and created these stations. So me and my friends are just like amazed, like, oh my god, like this is us, this is my voice, this is my community, this is who I am. And so when Metro came to me and asked me to compete for this, it was just like, yeah, of course, like I'm honored. And when I got it, it was such an emotional moment because, you know, growing up, that was it, that was Metro. Like, you know, it was like it felt like an unattainable goal to be one of those artists because you grow up like looking to those artists.
So if I lean, like if I do this, you sing me in the show?
Yeah. But that's as far as you can go.
You mean I can't turn up?
Yeah, because I completely lose your face.